Hey everybody, we've got such a fun video for you today because we are taking a look at a brand new car reveal. And this is something pretty special, an all-electric vehicle that could cost upwards of $300,000. Max, what are we looking at?
Well, that price tag kind of makes my eyes water, but this is the Cadillac Celestiq, depending on how luxury you want to say it.
Yeah, and it's kind of in the same naming realm as the all-new Cadillac crossover, the electric one, which is called the Lyriq, or is it Lyriq? But yeah, this is going to be the new Cadillac flagship. We've got some information on it in this video. We're going to tell you everything we currently know and where it kind of fits in the lineup, because it certainly is a little bit unusual.
Yeah, there's nothing else like it. And that kind of Q ending, right, Lyriq, Celestiq, kind of tells us, and Cadillac has outright told us that this is Ultium. This is GM's new platform. So this is going to be using their most advanced, latest battery tech.
Now, from what I've read that Cadillac has said, this is supposed to make Cadillac the gold standard of cars going forward. And they said that this vehicle is actually inspired by certain models from the company's past. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so this is kind of like, think Cadillac pre-war era, back when American luxury was, the superlative, the best in the world. So they're citing stuff like the V16s that they made, the bespoke stuff, the Eldorado Brahms as their influences.
Yeah, and certainly throughout the 50s and 60s, it's pretty hard to argue that at least in the US, Cadillac was the go-to luxury vehicle. And you talked about is it Brahm or is it Brougham or is it Brougham?
I'm a Brahm person, and honestly, I think Doug DeMuro's on my side here. So
I'm going with Brougham. I think that's what I'm going with. I've heard some folks. I was actually at a dinner recently, and we had like 10 car journalists around the table yelling at each other whether or not it was Brahm or Brougham. But I'm going with Brougham. But yeah, so that's kind of the name of their pinnacle luxury sedans and coupes from back in the day. And rumors are suggesting that this thing could cost $200,000, maybe even $300,000. And where does that make it fit in the landscape?
Recently, Dad, Roman and I looked at the Lucid Air, the Grand Touring spec of that. Even that was like $150,000, and that's one of the most expensive EVs to date. So there's the Polestar 5, which will come out, but I don't think that's going to cost anywhere near $300K. So this is sort of unprecedented.
And even in the world of like luxury sedans in general that are not powered by internal combustion, right? It takes a lot to get into the $300,000 price tag. I mean, even a lot of Bentleys are in the $200,000 range. Potentially, like if it's got a Maybach badge on the front of it, or certainly Rolls-Royce can go well above $300,000. But interesting that Cadillac is pushing the envelope on what a fully electric EV could be in terms of pure all-out luxury. So what is the platform this is based on?
Yeah, so this is GM Ultium, so the same thing, everything from the upcoming Blazer to the Hummer to the Lyriq, everything is going to be built off that GM is doing now. So basically that means it's a scalable battery architecture. GM has not told us what kind of range or battery capacity to expect, but this looks to me a little bit kind of Grand Tourer-esque. What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, I do like the look of it quite a lot. It's very angular. One of the cool things, if you look at the rear, we've got these kind of vertically mounted taillights on the bottom portion of the bumper, and they kind of look like upside-down tail fins to me, which was an iconic Cadillac mark in the 1950s. So some pretty cool stuff there. It's got a lot going on. I think it might be a hatchback, right? Because it looks like the whole rear portion opens up, unlike a traditional sedan. You pointed out that it's got no door handles.
Yeah, so I'm sure it'll be super aerodynamic, but how do you open the doors? Well, Cadillac hasn't told us yet.
It's pretty funny. So let's talk about some of the tech, because there's some cool stuff inside of it.
Yeah, so the technology inside is kind of crazy. The biggest thing that Cadillac seems to love talking about is suspended particle device technology, SPD for short. That's the first time I've ever heard that term. But that's going to be used in what they're calling a smart glass roof, which means that it's a panoramic glass roof, right? We're seeing that in a lot of EVs, but they're saying every passenger can individually adjust their shade level.
Really? And that's suspended particle technology? Is that
suspended particle device technology.
Okay. So in terms of screen, we have a 55-inch screen where the passenger view dims so the driver can't see it. So maybe in theory you could have your own little entertainment system right in front of the passenger and not distract the driver. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what they're going for?
They're marketing it kind of as a safety and serenity thing, right? So the 55 inches doesn't mean that the driver is looking at one ginormous screen. They're kind of doing what Mercedes and some other automakers have done, like on the EQS, where you get a very wide screen, right? Stretches across the whole dash. And like you said, the passenger could kind of be looking at their own thing that's not going to distract the driver.
I was just in an EQS, actually, which is the luxury Mercedes sedan slash hatchback egg, and there was a passenger screen in it where you can actually watch movies while the driver drives along, and then when the driver tries to look over, it dims so the driver can't see it, which I think is pretty clever. So very, very cool stuff, and maybe we'll see some of that incorporated into the Celestiq. There's also something called Ultra Cruise, which is the apparently better version of Super Cruise, which is their level 2 hands-off pre-highway mapped driver assist technology, which is a great name, Ultra Cruise. The only thing that would be better if it was called Cruise-O-Matic. I think that would be a kind of a cool throwback. Now, where is this thing built? How are they going to make this thing?
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of unique. They're making it in Michigan, actually, at the GM Global Technical Center, where there hasn't been a production car built there since it opened in 1956. So,
wow.
Yeah. Presumably, based off the price tag, I would wager to guess they're not going to make that many of them, right? So maybe that's why they're doing this. This seems to be very kind of focused on that luxury bespoke feel.
Now, we don't have an exact date on when it's going to hit the dealers, but I think it's a pretty interesting model that they're going after. Now, competition, we talked about the Polestar 5, which, once again, we don't know much about. Lucid Air is a good potential competitor, but you mentioned that that tops out pretty significantly less than this could cost.
Yeah, and honestly, this is going to be luxury, of course, but that Lucid Air is ridiculously fast, 0 to 60. It's kind of right now the apex of electric car technology. So short of knowing more details, we really don't know how Cadillac is going to make this feel superlative. My guess would be stuff like that SPD roof, the kind of interior blowing you away with that American luxury mindset, but it's really uncharted territory.
And the Lucid Air, of course, will start potentially cheaper, right? You can get it more affordably than, of course, $160,000.
Yeah.
But that's a car which really came on the market and I think has surprised a lot of folks, not only in terms of acceleration and luxury, but also all-out range, right? If you get the correct configuration of the Lucid Air, you're pushing 400 miles on a single charge.
Yeah, I think they said it rated almost 516 from the EPA.
Is it really that?
Your dad and I were in, which is insane because it's super aerodynamic. They're using the bleeding edge battery tech. Of course, GM has a lot of good things to say about Ultium, but they have not really said anything about range specifically on the Celestiq.
Although I was just in a Mercedes that went 1,000 kilometers on a single charge.
That's the EQXX,
yeah,
right?
That was not being produced, but just like this, it's a concept, but it went 625 miles on a single charge. But you're right. So we don't know kilowatt hours in the battery. We don't know horsepower, torque numbers, right? So those could still be up in the air. We don't know if it's all-wheel drive. It could be a single motor. But I'm expecting this thing, if it's as big as it looks in pictures, to have an enormous battery, maybe like 150, 200 kilowatt hours, like the Hummer, right? That's got that huge battery too. Yeah. So yeah, they're probably going to be pushing some technological bounds with this. And then what about Mercedes and BMW? What do they have?
Yeah, so we know that BMW has, is the i7 already out in Europe?
I think it's going to be hitting the market here very shortly.
Okay, so i7 is imminent. Also kind of like the Lucid Air, expensive, but not really anywhere near cresting over $200,000 or $300,000, let alone. But Mercedes, we don't know so much about what's coming next besides EQS. But EQS is not, I wouldn't say it's the best comparison for this.
Well, that's another car you can get, I think, into the $200,000 range, EQS. But it's a great car. To me, it's fantastic, and the 580 is incredible. And but I think they're probably targeting a slightly different crowd than this. And the range numbers are a little bit less impressive on the Mercedes compared to the Air, but it's a great piece of engineering.
Yeah, super aerodynamic, very controversial styling on the EQS, though.
Now, what Mercedes has done in the past is they have this Maybach ultra luxury brand where they've taken like the S-Class and the GLS and done the Maybach treatment where they put better leathers and like the business class seats in the back and the full suede everything and then charge a lot more. So maybe we'll see like an EQS Maybach. I don't think that's out of the question because they do an S-Class Maybach. So maybe we'll see that. That could be a competitor. And then ultra luxury, we know Rolls-Royce is working on a fully electric car. So that could be another potential competitor for the Celestiq. But what do you think? Overall, pretty excited?
Yeah, pretty excited. And boy, wouldn't that be a throwback, British versus American luxury with Rolls-Royce's entry. So yeah, I'm a fan of the look. I know this has kind of polarized some people, but like you said, those taillights, everything about it to me kind of screams future, and I kind of like it. I'm
excited about it. Well, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you want more coverage on the EV news and the EV world, head over to TFL EV, and we'll see you on the next video.